speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. When speaking, be sure and speak directly into a microphone so that all comments are heard and the record of the meeting is accurate. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in a record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. Should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and/or statements as to motives and personality. I will now call the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee for Monday, June 22nd, 2024 to order. I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Henry. Lopez.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Kane. Here. Burrows.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next question for the clerk. Are there any revisions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There was an agenda update issued, adding item number 8 to the committee agenda, and there are no other revisions.
Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from April 24th and May 22nd meeting. If you need a minute, let me know. If not, I'd move for a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of April 24th and May 22nd, 2023. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Kane. Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That takes us to one of 8 items we have this evening. All of them are actionable items. Item number 1 and number 8 are related. So I'm going to take the liberty as chair to move item 8 up to along with number 1. So because they're both related, being it was added by a blue sheet, I'm taking the liberty of doing that. That's why we have the comparee here this evening, unless there's any objections. Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and move item 8 up to inclusive of item 1, and we'll do those individually on votes. And they're both resolutions. The first item 1 is the State Avenue Corridor Improvement Plan, interlocal agreement with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. And do you want to discuss item 8 in conjunction with that, or do you want to keep them separate? How would you like to do it, ladies?
Commissioner, this is Z Bishop with the legal department. I believe that the intention is to discuss them together.
Okay, thank you. Then the second item is a resolution with the State Avenue Corridor Improvement Plan amended interlocal agreement with the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. And that's was the blue sheeted item this evening. I believe we have Desiree Bush here, and we also have our member of our legal team. So ladies, please, it's all yours.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Desiree Bush, Unified Government Transportation Department Director. So before we actually go into the resolution and the project overview, just a little bit about us. We do offer modal transit services throughout the Wyandotte County area. We own and operate 5 fixed routes, microtransit, paratransit services, and then we also provide non-emergency medical transportation to the traveling public. We also operate under the RIDE-KC regional brand, which you will find in Missouri, Johnson County, and Wyandotte County. And we subcontract 4 fixed routes to the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, better known as KCATA. So a little bit about the State Avenue Corridor Improvement Plan. This is actually funded by the Surface Transportation Block Grant, better known as STBG. The program is actually through the Transportation Improvement Plan, better known as TIP. So we have an interlocal agreement with KCATA. The first original agreement was approved by the KCATA board in May of this year. And ultimately, this project seeks to improve transit access, safety, and operations on the smart moves, fast and frequent corridors. So with the original agreement, it was roughly $1 million. It's the 80-20 grant and local match requirement. The original grant's 800,000 and the local match was 200,000. Back in November of 2023, excuse me, commission did approve for us to use the UG ARPA as a match. So again, the total project was roughly 1 million. And then Mark informed us that they had extra funding to go towards the project from the TIP. So we received an additional 200,000, and we were the only one out of Johnson County, Missouri, to receive the additional 200,000 for this project. So it made the project total 1.2 million, and with the additional 200,000, we do require roughly $50,000 increase in the local match. Just to go over the scope of work or deliverables, with this grant opportunity, we will be able to replace dilapidated bus shelters. We'll also replace and upgrade our bus benches, repurpose our kiosks or install new kiosks. We'll be able to upgrade our trash bins. The corridor focus area is 29th and State to the Legends, which is over 20+ locations. Here's a little snapshot of what you see today, the top row. As you see, we do have some dilapidated shelters. They are quite weathered. We have non-working kiosks, and we are working diligently to improve our infrastructure. Here's a little quote by our transit team: "Improve bus shelters where waiting becomes a pleasure." That's something that we want to come up with, a little team spirit motto for this new project. Now on the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, that is a new bus shelter prototype that we chose in collaboration with KCATA. This shelter, you can find this prototype shelter at 19th and Grand. So went out to review the shelter. It's very nice. It's a mesh style metal material, and it has solar lighting. On the right-hand side, that's an example of one of our newest kiosks that we would like to install. So it's a real-time data interface for our public. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Committee, any questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying, looking for my hand raise here. I have a
Commissioner
question.
Lopez? Go ahead.
Yeah. What about that I haven't seen it in paper on contract yet, but what about that contract we have with KCMO to bus people over here? Does that have any, would that help with any of our funds for this?
Just asking for clarification. What do you mean by bus over here?
I believe there's a contract through KCMO with through Mayor Lucas or something about moving people over here from Kansas, Missouri. I don't know. I'm not sure how. I want to say around 700,000, but I don't know if that's what they were paying us. But would any of that money go towards this?
And Commissioner Lopez, this is Z Bishop from the Unified Government Legal Department. I do review the contracts for transit and generally for procurement across the Unified Government. I'm not familiar with that contract. What I can tell you is that these two contracts, the contract and the amendment, are closely related to the 7th Avenue Corridor Improvement Project, which the Unified Government approved a number of years ago, for improving the infrastructure, improving our bus shelters. The reason that we have a contract and then an amendment is because this is an interlocal agreement. So this is an agreement between the Unified Government and between KCATA, which is a quasi-governmental entity. And as such, we have to approve it through our standing committee and boards, but KCATA also had to approve it through their board. They were a little bit quicker than we were. They approved the contract back in May. And then after they approved the contract, this additional funding came through. And that's why we have both a contract and an amendment.
Okay, yeah, so it's just odd that you don't know about that contract, but okay, maybe that's something you can get back with me about.
Second.
We have Commissioner Stites with his hand raised.
Commissioner Stites, please.
Stites District 7, could we pull up the slide, if you can, that showed the shelters and the proposed, I think it was slide 3, if I'm not mistaken.
In regards to the original and amended,
No, it shows the shelters themselves.
that
One
would be the
more.
last slide.
Right there. Yeah, right there. Sorry. So I remember back some time ago when the shelters were being discussed and what type, and there was the concern. I know the reason that they put that the handrail or that divider in the middle there is to try to eliminate folks from sleeping and hanging out. I guess the one on the bottom left, the one that you're talking about, would be the proposed area. And don't get me wrong, I'm for trying to provide shade and, because I see these folks sitting outside in the direct sunlight. But my concern there would be that this now larger area would provide even a greater room for somebody to just excuse me, just kind of camp out and sleep and hang out. And what is your guys' thoughts, and how do we address that?
Yes, good question. So the shelter on the left-hand side is actually a 5x10 shelter, and it's the same specifications as our existing infrastructure. That space that you see there is for wheelchairs, so it must be, we are required by federal law to ensure that our shelters are ADA compliant.
Okay,
That's-
that I appreciate that part, but what about the follow-up?
Well, as far as the anti-loitering style infrastructure, we do plan to utilize the anti-loitering benches. If the issue is the space itself, we can certainly look at adding the extra space outside of the shelter. However, that's a new prototype and new specs, but we do have existing older style shelters. We haven't replaced our shelters in over 10 years, and we actually have some existing shelters that haven't been replaced over 15. So the older style shelters are actually built like what you see here. There will be no new additions. So all of the existing locations that have a shelter will be replaced, but no new additional shelters.
Okay. I would like to, and I appreciate, thank you for the answers there. I would like to, just put it out there that, this increase of people just using these shelters, and I think, it's in their name, right? A bus shelter, that people are then using them as shelters and not for their intended purpose as to, like you said, where waiting becomes a pleasure. Instead, it looks like they're gathering trash and people using them as, places to hang out and sleep and stay the night. So just wanted to put that out there, and I appreciate the presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your concern, and definitely take your feedback into consideration.
Yes, Bush, you might explain the material that's used in the new design versus the old design. Yeah, I think it would be important for the commissioners and the public to know that they'll should be easier to maintain.
Absolutely. So our existing shelters, as you see, are weathered, they're acrylic sort of material, low quality. Someone can easily just kick out the side of our panels. With the new shelter, these sort of, the new prototype shelters are used in high vandalized areas. So we face graffiti, in addition to, some of the passengers or the public, destroying the acrylic, sort of style shelter. So what you see at the bottom left-hand corner, the newer prototype is actually a metal mesh. So someone cannot easily kick out that panel. Actually, I went to Las Vegas last year and saw that they had this sort of prototype, and I was highly interested in this prototype for our community. I believe the quality is much more durable and long-standing, excuse me, versus what we have. It's one solid color. The only deal is if someone were to graffiti it, we can actually go back and just paint it that silver metallic cover. It's an easier cover up versus the acrylic version.
Thank you. Committee, before I entertain a motion, I do need to ask if there was, ask staff if there's anybody sending any comments from the public.
No comments were received.
Thank you. I'll ask clerk if anyone was online from the public wishes to make a comment.
No hands are raised.
Thank you. Now I'll ask if there is anybody in here this evening that would like to speak to this item. Let the record show that no one stepped forward. Committee, if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1 and Resolution 8 separately. And the reason why we haven't amended is because of the additional $50,000 that due to match the 200,000 coming from the TIP funding, if I remember correctly. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item number 1, adopting the resolution from the KCATA agreement for $200,000 match, $800,000 surface transportation block grant. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane, Burrows.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you,
carries.
committee. That takes us to item number 8. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval of item number 2. That's the additional 50,000 for the 200,000 that's coming from KCTA on the amended form from TIP. So, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second. I do need to ask if there's anybody online that would care to speak to this item.
Hands are raised.
Anybody here would like to speak to that item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane, Burrows.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you,
carries.
committee. Thank you, Ms. Bush. This takes us to our original item number 2, which is an ordinance. It's granting level 3 communications to maintain telecom systems within the right of way of the public right of way of the city. And I will recognize a member of our legal department to make the presentation. And I'm sorry, I don't have the name in front of it. Is it Michael Rankin?
That's correct. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rankin. Welcome.
Good evening, commissioners. So these next 2 items actually kind of go hand in hand. So item 2 is the,
Could you pull your microphone a little closer and speak into the microphone,
I'm sorry
please?
about that. Can you hear, is this better? So yeah, these next 2 items kind of go hand in hand. One is the a franchise ordinance for level 3 communications, and the other is for CenturyLink Communications. They are both subsidiaries of a company called Lumen. That's what these ordinances are, is to give them a franchise ordinance to maintain telecommunications systems in the public right of way. So as part of that, through the ordinance, so they'll have to pay us, it's a 5% of their gross receipts as a franchise fee to the city to do that. They also have to post a $50,000 bond with the city to cover, any, if they damage something in right of way. and that they will fix that. Really, that's kind of the gist of it.
$1,000 fee.
Yes, and yeah, there's $1,000 fee for for putting the ordinance together.
In the liability aspect is $1 to $2 million.
Correct. Yeah, so they're required to maintain $2 million insurance
Okay.
on top of the bond that they have to post.
Question, and that's items that's items 2 and 3 in reference to ordinance changes because the other one deals with CenturyLink. So we're dealing with two different organizations.
Correct. So they're both owned by the same parent company. And for my conversations with them, they insist that they maintain those two entities kind of separate. So it's the same company, it'll be the same crews doing all the work, but the entities themselves are separate enough that they wanted two agreements.
Question I might have is the $1,000 they pay and the 5%, is it coming from both, the 5% from both companies? Or is it just the one company because they're doing business as two entities?
So it'll be from both.
From both, okay, wonderful.
Same with the bond, and that way it kind of works out in our favor. So each entity for each ordinance, they'll have to post that same $50,000 bond.
Okay, great. Questions, committee?
Yeah, I have a question. Commissioner Lopez, District 6. I was looking at just the bond itself. What happens if they're digging a pole hole and they hit a gas line? Just almost like what happened over KCMO a few years ago when that bore machine hit that gas line and caught that building on fire, all that. And then that goes through their insurance is a $200 million or $2 million. Me having a tree service, I have to carry $6 million, $5 million plus $1 million blanket. But just a $2 million insurance policy seems awful low for what they're doing. Especially if somebody dump truck, because their phone lines are supposed to be 18 feet from the street. That's the lowest that they can put it. But I've seen where phone lines have been lower than that and a dump truck grab it and then knock poles down. And then now you've got primary on top that's minimum 7,200 volts, and then everything burns up and somebody dies or a lot of people die or whatnot. But that's just $2 million on insurance. It seems awful cheap.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what sets that amount. I don't believe that comes from statute.
That would be on insurance, section 6, insurance requirements and performance bond.
Right, item B. Item A and B. On page 6.
And I'm not quite sure, Commissioner Lopez, where that amount comes from. I know it's consistent with the insurance that we've required for past franchise ordinances like this. We had one with Google. Yeah, I couldn't say why it's that amount.
And could that be amended to more?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I don't believe that number is set by statute. There are statutes that kind of constrain what we can and can require from telecommunications companies. I don't know that this number is required at that amount. So it might be that we could increase it or lower it as we wanted.
Right, because if something happened and it's a $20 million lawsuit, are we on the hook for the 18 million?
So we don't indemnify them for any of the work. So if it's something that their insurance wouldn't cover, they would still be on the hook for it. The city wouldn't become liable just because they hit the insurance limit.
This
Okay.
is Assistant Administrator Ellen Howes. I mean, both of these are large national companies that are doing this in communities across the nation. So, I mean, they're in terms of the resources they would have for a extreme scenario like that, they're not these aren't small companies. These are very large companies.
I think the question is it enough to take care of an issue should it happen? Are we is the request for $1 million to $2 million enough to cover a major catastrophe? What have we looked at what other local communities charge as far as an indemnity issue for insurance for our right-of-way issues? Do we know if it's do we have an industry-wide number?
Not that I'm aware of. I know so like the franchise fee, the bond requirement, those are pretty consistent with the communities around here, but I don't know about the insurance.
We have Commissioner Stites online with his hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lopez, are you finished?
No, well, it was just real quick that, he point from our legal was, there are very large outfits, and my question is, I mean, their contracts are a lot bigger than I've ever had contracts. Biggest contract I ever had was a $4.5 million contract. But what I'm saying is, I have to carry $6 million in insurance. Why aren't these guys carrying 6, if not more?
Yeah, and that I can't say for sure why it would be the case.
Okay, maybe something we can look into, and follow up. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Stites.
Stites District 7, my question kind of goes, or comment kind of goes along with the same. And maybe this might be for Alan. 5%, that's a standard franchise fee for similar services.
From what I've seen, yeah, typically it's between 3% and 5%.
Okay, all right, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Committee, any other questions? If not, I'll go to the clerk. Madam Clerk, are there any comments received from the public?
No comments were received.
Anybody online in the public wish to make a comment in reference to these two items?
No hands are raised.
Anybody here present in the room who care to speak to these two items? Let the record show nobody step forward. If in that case, I accept a motion. We've got two items that are related, separate motions to ordinance, one for dealing with CenturyLinks, the other one dealing with level 3 communications. I'd entertain a motion for item number 2.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Kane. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, committee. That takes us to item number 3. That's the CenturyLink motion. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item number 3, dealing with the granting CenturyLink communications telecom systems within the right of way. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Kane. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion's approved.
Thank you, committee. That takes us to item number 4 on the agenda. And we'll wait for our conferees to change places.
Good evening. My name is Laura Cromwell. I'm the fiscal manager for the Kansas City Police Department. Here with me tonight is Major Santana. He's over our services division. The police department is seeking approval to apply for and accept funding under the fiscal year 24 Bureau of Justice Assistance Body Worn Camera Policy and Implementation Grant Program. This grant program will provide funding to support the purchase of new body-worn cameras, as our current camera system is at the end of its life cycle. Awards cap at $2,000 per body-worn camera. We plan to request funding to support the purchase of 307 body-worn cameras for a total federal award amount equal to $614,000. Awards in this category do require a local match amount equal to the federal award amount, so we will need to match at $614,000. At the present time, our capital improvement program schedule has sufficient funding already allocated in it to meet this match requirement, and we would require no additional funding from the UG to meet that requirement. The project period will extend from October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2027. So we would have until 2027 to provide the match dollars that are required.
Questions, committee?
You got it. I'll host a class.
And you presently have, you're not needing any match money from the general fund, that you have it within your funds within the department.
Yeah, so we have a dedicated line that's already been established in our CMIP schedule or CIP schedule for body worn cameras. We implemented our body worn camera program with a grant, this same grant back in fiscal year 2017 that Alan House actually helped us apply for, and we were awarded. So that's how we implemented it. And since then, we've had that line in our budget to maintain and sustain the program. Planning to continue with body worn cameras, we've continued to put funding in our CMIP schedule.
Wonderful, great. Any comments from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I would ask clerk if anybody online has any hands raised.
There are no hands raised.
I'll ask if anybody, any comments received from the public.
No comments were received.
Thank you. Now I'll ask the clerk if anyone from the public wish to make a comment that are here this evening. Let the record show no one stepped forward. Committee, that's grants coming in. That's something that we've pushed for quite a while. I think it's great. Great public safety item that they've already budgeted for. So I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. That was a second, correct, Lopez?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. We have a motion, a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Yes.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane, Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Item number 5, another grant proposal. Please, Laura.
Okay, so yep, a second grant we're seeking approval to apply for is actually under the same grant program, but in a different category. So a couple different requirements. Category 3 awards under the fiscal year 24 body worn camera grant program will provide funding to law enforcement agencies proposing digital evidence integration projects. Our proposal will be to implement a cloud-based evidence storage solution that will integrate with the DA's office newly acquired software. And this solution would streamline body worn camera data sharing with the DA's office. Awards in this category will be $1 million and fortunately require no match from the unified government. And the project period will span from October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2027.
Wow. Any questions, committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, is there any comments from the public?
No comments received.
Anybody online with a hand raised care to speak to this item?
No hands are raised.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk if anyone in public here this evening would like to speak to this item. Let the record show no one stepped forward. Committee, it's $1 million grant, no match. Kudos to the department. That's awesome. I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Lopez. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Committee, that takes us to item number 6. Item number 6 with our conferees. Laura, one more time, please. You're hitting.
Okay, this
Hitting
is
the
the last one.
thousands.
The last one I have for tonight. So we're requesting approval to apply for funding under a different grant program for this item. This will be fiscal year 24 BJA Local Law Enforcement Crime Gun Intelligence Center or CJIC grant program. Funding under this award would allow us to expand the capabilities of our current Crime Gun Intelligence Center, which we actually implemented with a previous fiscal year 22 CJIC grant. Essentially, the goal of our CJIC is to reduce gun-related crimes by increasing the success rate of gun-related prosecution efforts. Funds, if awarded, would be used to integrate our records management system with the ATF's National Ballistic Database, also known as NIBIN. Funding will also be used to purchase mobile device extraction software, additional license plate reader and traffic cameras, as well as laptops and training for our CJIC staff. Our funding request will be $300,000 and will require no match from the UG. And the project period for this grant will extend for 2 years.
Committee, any questions? Just 300,000, huh?
We try our best.
I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments were received from the public.
No comments received.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk if anyone online from the public wishes to make a comment.
No hands are raised.
Is there anyone appearing in person here this evening would care to speak to this comment or speak to this item? Let the record show no one step forward, please. Committee, I would entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kane and a second from Commissioner Lopez. Clerk, please call a roll.
Roll call. Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Kane. Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That's $2 million in grants. Yeah. Thank you for your work. That's awesome. You're being commended. Okay, committee, our item number 7, our last item on the agenda this evening deals with a resolution. It's a memorandum of understanding and agreement with the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. And I believe we have representation from the unified government and they will give an overview. Please, Troy.
Troy Shaw, County Engineer. I'm here with Sarah Schaefer, who's one of our senior engineers. So this is Sumner Academy. You can kind of tell from the picture if you're familiar with it. The grade chunk you see above the academy is the football field they have out there right now. The green line through the middle of that is a combined sewer line that's underneath that football field right now. There's a couple manholes that are in the end zones of the football field, actually. So that line had a collapse in it and we need to repair that. On top of that, Sumner Academy got a grant to replace the football field with a, I don't know, turf, fancy football field, basically to redo it. So during this process, we were talking to the school district. Sarah's actually been in communication with them. And we've come up with a plan to relocate that line around there. Currently it's a combined sewer line underneath there. Will be, when we go through this, if we're to relocate this, we'll separate it from a sanitary to a, or from a combined to a sanitary and storm around there, which will help us in the future with the CSO removals in that area when we get to it. So we could go fix the line right now, but Sarah came up with a better idea to go talk to the school and see if they're willing to participate in some funding to get that line out from under their football field, as it helps alleviate risk from both us and the school district in the future. So we've got a commitment from the school district to contribute up to $500,000 or to contribute $500,000 to the relocation of this line. So this MOU is just to let county administrator sign that agreement so we can move forward. Here for any questions.
And we presently have the funds available to do.
Yes, correct. They're built into our rate. I meant to say that.
Yeah, thank you. Committee, any questions, comments? Anybody online? Yeah, Commissioner Lopez.
Just a quick question. Would that grant money help with any of that at all? From the NFL?
No, that's purely for their reconstruction of their football field.
Okay, because I just didn't know if we ever partnered with Bishop Ward or, well, I guess all them other schools, Bishop Ward, Turner, Piper, I guess they didn't have this issue either. But,
Well, and the school district's given us $500,000. So that's part of the MOU is they're going to pay us $500,000 to help with this relocation.
I got you. Okay, I got you. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Stites, any comments?
No.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments received from the public.
No comments received.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk if anyone online from the public wishes to make a comment.
No hands are raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone appearing in person that would like to address this item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. Thank you, committee. I would entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kane and a second by Commissioner Burns. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane, Burrows,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. Committee, that takes us to the end of our agenda this evening. I appreciate your studious approach to the business at hand this evening, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Lopez,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Kane, Burrows,
Aye.
motion approved.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Please stay. The next item up is the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee after a short break.
I am told that we are ready to go, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So before I call our meeting to order, I do want to announce that some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site, and all participants that are joining by phone or electronically should mute your phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public observing knows who is speaking. And when you are speaking, please make sure you speak directly into the microphone so that all of our comments can be heard and recorded properly for our meeting records. This is critical given the number of remote participants. It's also current guidance from our Kansas Attorney General. The public is invited to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments are included in the record of our meeting. The public can indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting our clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday prior to the meeting. And the public also has an opportunity to provide comments either by phone or Zoom from our fifth floor conference room here in the municipal office building. Public comments allowed during each agenda item. Comments are limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives or personalities. And with all that being said, I will now call our meeting of Administration and Human Services Standing Committee for Monday, July 22nd, 2024 to order. And I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Roll call. Hill,
Here.
Davis, Ramirez,
Here.
Kane, Bynum.
Here. Clerk, are there revisions on our agenda this evening?
There are no revisions.
Thank you. And we have, our first order is approval of minutes from April 24 and May 22nd, 2023 meetings. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Bynum.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you. We have one item on our agenda. It's an information item. We are, let me ask if it's an information. My documents say that we would take a motion. Okay, so it's a resolution. Okay, thanks very much. We want to hear a presentation from Aaron Stryker with Rosedale Development Association outlining potential plans to construct a community center at Fisher Park. And we also have Angel Ferrara, our Director of Parks, and Wendy Green with our legal department. So I will recognize the staff persons, and then you can give your introductory statements, and then we'll turn it over to Aaron Stryker. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Wendy Green with UG Legal. So the action item you have before you is a resolution. So after Ms. Stryka gives her presentation, and if you have any questions based upon her presentation, oh, thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. You would be asked to deal with the resolution.
And Wendy, I'm so sorry, but Commissioner Davis doesn't seem to have the Zoom link. So I think he's trying to get on and he said it wasn't in the agenda. So if you wouldn't mind. Thank you very much. Okay. Excellent. He'll go ahead and log on, but you go ahead and continue.
Sure. So the resolution would be asking you to give authorization to our county administrator, Mr. Johnston, to sign a memorandum of understanding with Rosedale Development Association for approval to enter into an agreement that would be, we'll work out the details of that agreement shortly. Well, actually, it's going to take a little bit to work out the details of that agreement. It's going to be a little bit complicated because it's not something that we do on a regular basis with the unified government. And it's probably best if we go ahead and have the presentation first, and then you'll understand why it might be a little bit complicated. But once we have the presentation, then we'll discuss the basic terms of some of the memorandum of understanding that we'll come to, and then you'll understand why the resolution is the way it is.
And so I'll go ahead and introduce Erin Strika, Executive Director of Rosedale Development Association, to give her presentation. Again, this is an idea or a plan that RDA has developed over several years with community engagement to construct a community center at Fisher Park. There is some grant funding involved, which Erin will go into those details, which does have to, well, which will relate to the overall resolution and some of the back end things that will be worked out in an agreement. So I will turn it over to Erin Strika to walk us through this presentation.
Thank you, Angel and Wendy. So I'm Erin Strika. I'm Director of Rosedale Development Association. I know several of you are very familiar with RDA and some of you are maybe less so I'll keep this part short, but so we are one of your 8 MBRs. Our mission is to work with businesses, residents, and institutions to develop a thriving Rosedale community. We do a whole lot of things. We say that we do programs that build community for all ages. Through those programs, we teach neighbors to advocate for quality development. And then we say people grow with their neighborhood. So I don't know, does this point? No. So I like to share this illustration that a Rosedalian made of how RDA works. That towards the top of the map, you see Rosedale kids in walking school buses and cooking classes and soccer and in our summer youth employment program. And then as they become Rosedale adults, they're running small businesses and our neighborhood groups and doing community barbecues, stuff like that. And all through that, we're engaging them in advocating for a better Rosedale. And as more and more Rosedalians come into that, the better the neighborhood is. We do a lot of stuff. I don't think I need to go through the whole list, but we do youth programs, home repair, beautification, a lot of work with developers, and a lot of work with you as well. So what we don't typically do is build buildings. So this is kind of an unusual project for us. And the reason we are involved in it is because one of our contractual obligations to you is to help engage the neighborhood in area planning processes. So back in 2015, we were getting ready to redo the Rosedale Master Plan. And RDA's first part of that was to put out a community survey asking basically what people cared about, what should we be focusing on. The KU did the survey for us. It got double the responses needed for 95% confidence in results. One of the things we asked is, do you want a Rosedale Community Center? Now, Rosedale has not had a community center of any kind since 1997 when the Bell Recreation Center closed. I hear about it a lot. Most community meetings, most surveys, most focus groups, that's one of the major things people are interested in changing. So we asked people, are you interested in this? About 84% said they were somewhat or very interested. And that survey was 9 pages long, lots of other stuff in there. That data went into the Rosedale Master Plan process along with neighborhood meetings, focus groups that engaged 250 unique residents, and that became the Rosedale Master Plan and Traffic Study, which you adopted in 2016. Here are the overall goals of the Rosedale Master Plan. The one I've circled is the goal for community. Support Rosedale's strong community by strengthening schools, creating a community center or library in Rosedale, and enhancing public spaces. And then we skip 200 pages or so ahead to the implementation section of the Rosedale Master Plan. The first implementation step was a Fisher Park Development Concept Plan. So that anticipated a possible community center at Fisher Park, as well as the BPU substation that has now been relocated. The second step is the community center. So once that concept plan is done, find funding for and build a community center. And you'll notice up at the top, the champions for both of those steps are the UG and RDA. So we're the ones tasked with implementing that step. So we adopted the Rosedale Master Plan in 2016. Shortly after that, Parks was doing their master plan process, and RDA was very active in that, advocating for a new Rosedale Community Center. that master plan process was completed, and what we discovered through that is we're not building new community centers. We're having trouble managing the ones we have. And so at that point, I went to our board and said, look, this isn't going to happen. We got to take this off the project list. And our board, in their wisdom, I've got a couple board members here today, said, absolutely not. The community says this is the priority. Our job is to serve the community. If Parks isn't able to do that, we got to find another solution. So that was about 2019. We had a quick pandemic pause, and then in 2021, we said, okay, we know that they want a community center. We need to find out what they want in a community center. So we put out a new survey saying a community center can be 30 different things. Which are you picturing when you tell us this? We also pulled together a group of about 30 community members called the Rosedale Community Center stakeholders. They began meeting in 2022 to do the pre-development work for building one on our own. So that group crunched the survey data. They went around to successful community centers all through the metro, doing site visits, asking questions, learning what it would really take. We engaged a consultant who did site assessments of Fisher Park because it's identified in the master plan, but also of 7 other potential sites that have been suggested at various points. And they also made for us a schematic design of a community center as well as some illustrations. So that survey that we put out saying, what exactly do you want in a community center, came back with a fitness center with cardio and strength training equipment, basketball court and gymnasium, pool, and a pavilion for farmers market and outdoor gatherings. Those were the top 4. Classroom space and just rentable community space also came up very high. Our community center stakeholder group made this word cloud kind of representing community interest from that survey and other things. And then this basic program for the building that we want to have both sports and arts prioritized. We want class space, we want event space. We figure RDA should probably office there. The Fisher Park location is right by Rosedale Middle School, and we want to really prioritize space that's welcoming to teens and safe for teens, hangout spots. That community center stakeholder group spent a great deal of time on the question of a pool and ultimately decided that that's just plain too big of a lift for us. This is already a pretty big lift and we want it to be successful. So what we said is we'll get to that next if we're successful with this. Indoor track and cardio and weights. This is a schematic plan, and to be clear, this isn't exactly what it will look like, but it shows you how those components could be put together, which helps us estimate what it'll cost to build. This one's about 27,000 square feet. This is the first floor here, and you see that gym, that event space, all that. And then this is the second floor. Got a raised track around the gym and additional classroom space. And then I like to show that little illustration too. So that stakeholder group did all that work in 2022. In 2023, we started meeting with funders. It was looking like it would be a long road. And then at the end of 2023, the EPA put out this community change grant. And one of our board members brought this to our attention. Community change grant is through the Inflation Reduction Act. It can be used for a lot of different things. One of them is for what's called a climate resiliency hub. That is a building that can be operated independently from the power grid in the event of a climate emergency. It can also be used for other climate or emergency preparedness purposes, like a heating or cooling center in extreme weather or education about future climate challenges. The grant is 10 to 20 million. It requires no match, and the lead applicant has to be a community nonprofit organization. So we took this to the board, and what we said was, this will not come around again. These big federal grants, for one thing, they don't come to community nonprofits. For another thing, they involve match almost always. And for a third thing, our budget for building this thing is under $20 million. This will fund the complete construction cost of the community center. So the board decided to go for it. We have not, again,
we haven't built a building yet. So we applied for and received some technical assistance from the EPA. We have an assister who's been meeting with us weekly while we prepare this grant. We've been advised to submit our grant application in early August, which will give us time to, if needed, revise and resubmit it by the final deadline of November. And then if successful, we have 3 years to complete the project. So, as Wendy mentioned, the ask for tonight is for a resolution authorizing your county administrator to enter into an agreement with us to lease part of Fisher Park. So as Ms. Green mentioned, there's a lot that goes into that. It gets tricky. What we hope to do is lease your land. So Fisher Park remains UG, it remains the park. We have a lease on it, a long-term lease that allows us to build on it. And the funds we pay you for that lease go into a trust, into some kind of fund that is a contingency for if at any point we couldn't operate it anymore, because you are taking a risk letting us build a building on your plan, right? So we want to plan for that risk from the beginning. This here, so you see Fisher Park here. I kind of want to point out that playground there was a joint RDA UG project a couple of years ago. I don't think you can see our community orchard or our water fountain or even the bike racks there, but Fisher Park has been the site of several partnered projects that we've been fortunate to do with parks. So there's a little bit of precedent for this. Also want to share, this is something called a test fit that an architect does. That is not the footprint or exact location. That just tells us how big of a building we could fit on here without disrupting the playground. Or if you see that big black line running through it, there is an electrical duct bank under Fisher Park that can't be built on top of. We want to avoid it. That big black line goes to a big gray square. That is an old BPU substation that is now decommissioned. And the plan is once it is demolished, that becomes additional parking, additional green space for the park. So we will lose some park space through this, but we will also gain some by completing the whole project. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The only other thing I want to say is a big thank you to your staff. Poor Angel has sat through so many iterations of this project over the last few years. Ms. Green, Mr. Howes, your team has been very, very helpful with getting this to this point. So I want to say the UG is not investing any money in this at all, but you have shared a lot of your time and expertise, and we really appreciate that.
Aaron, would you go back one slide to the map? Just orient me. I feel like rainbows down here, but I don't think that's right.
You're exactly right. So do you see 39th Avenue? So 39th Avenue is perpendicular to Rainbow about 3 blocks that way.
So it's actually off to the right-hand side of
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
I can remember driving from Rainbow office, I guess 39th Avenue to the park. I could not figure out where Rainbow Avenue was in this map. Just another map question. Immediately to the right
Yes.
with the buildings and the parking lot, what is that?
Those are apartment buildings. They're largely student housing for KU.
I cannot remember the name of the apartment complex. It's not the university apartments.
I think that one might be called.
Fog.
Huh?
I think they're the Fog Apartments or something around those lines. But yeah, they're mainly medical students or medical center workers.
Oh, okay. Okay. Angel or Wendy, or even Alan, any other comments that you should add here for us?
No, the only thing I would add is the first agreement we're going to do is an MOU. That would give RDA enough proof that they're going to have control over the site that we're going to lease to them for them to be able to apply for the grant. And then that way we will then come to a ground lease agreement of some sort. There's 2 different kinds of things we need to be mindful of. One is the ground lease agreement, which will have all the things we need in there to make sure that we retain control of the land underneath it and that they are solely responsible for the building above the ground. But also because it's going to need to be a separate parcel for tax purposes. They're going to need to apply for their exemption through the Board of Tax Appeals. And for that to be able to happen, it has to be recorded with the Register of Deeds and it has to say on it, building on leased land. So we have to make sure it falls under all of those categories it needs to fall under to meet the exemption requirements. So there's lots of moving parts in that. And quite frankly, that was moving too fast for us to be able to get all of that done in the time that they needed to be able to apply for their grant. So, but the MOU would allow us to do that. But I had a vacation scheduled. So so the resolution was to allow David to sign the MOU, which I will be working on this week to get it done for them.
And that satisfies what you need right now in order to apply. Okay. Angel, comments from you?
Yeah, so Wendy captured a lot of that, and I think that the biggest thing that we'll be working through is just exactly what Aaron said, is making sure there's something set up so that if the project goes through and maybe down the line, it does come back to the unified government, there would be some sort of funding source there to continue some operations, because I know that was, I think, the biggest concern, at least when I was asked, from Parks and Rec, is just making sure that if something were to happen, it could continue to be maintained.
What is the timeline, Aaron, of you knowing if your grant's going to be awarded?
So the grant closes in November.
Okay.
The EPA originally said they were going to make the first awards in March, and to my knowledge, they have not yet made an award.
Okay.
So
But it's a large pool, the change grants. It's a large pool of money.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions from Commissioner Hill and then Commissioner Ramirez.
This may be getting in the weeds a little bit, and just pull me out if I'm in the weeds. I just noticed no parking. Is it too early for that right now, or is it not part of it?
So there's an existing small circle driveway at Fisher Park, but that old BPU substation will be demolished and we'll build parking on that parcel. So, yeah. There it is. So the big gray rectangle on the left is the substation.
Question about that. Again, I think maybe we are in the weeds, but is it your intent that the BPU would deed that property to RDA?
No,
Or no?
that will also remain your property.
Yes, go ahead.
You want to take that one?
Yes, we actually did meet with BPU earlier today on that, and they do have it in their budget to demolish it just down to grade level. And it will remain within the unified government's ownership. The BPU can't own property in its own name. The unified government actually owns its property, and so it'll still be within unified government's name. It'll just be most likely a transfer of an asset from their books to our books.
Okay.
But we'll have to figure that out.
I mean, will we need to make any kind of agreement for that as well?
We'll figure that out too. Mhm. But they do know that it will be, that was what they had intended when they were decommissioning that substation, was that it would pretty much just be absorbed within Fisher Park.
And they're decommissioning, but just to note too, that they're still active in the sense that they have the duck bank, they have live activities that are running through that area. So they do need to retain both control and operational access to it. And given the site, there's not a lot of other things you can necessarily do with that once they decommission it. So it's, parking is probably about as good a use as you're going to be able to get out of that particular parcel.
We have Commissioner Davis online with his hand raised as well.
Okay, we will have Commissioner Ramirez and then Commissioner Davis. Okay, Commissioner Hill, was that all your questions? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To speak to it quickly, this is in my district. This is actually down the street from where I live. I know Fisher Park very well. And I remember when Aaron and the community members started meeting together to discuss this, the possibility of creating a community center. I will say, I do remember when I'm campaigning, a lot of the things, especially in this area, when I door knocked, infrastructure and community center were the top two I heard. So I knew very well that this is what the community wants. It's in the community master plan. The master plan states that it'd be into Fisher Park. I think this is another example of having a public and a private. We're not, I'm not saying RDA is not a private company, but you could say public-private partnership between RDA and the unified government, working together to advance the master plan and the needs and wants of the community. I do like the idea of the lease payments being set aside throughout the years, so as you said, to create this contingency plan, just in case. I hope and pray that, RDA maintains control and is able to do a good job, and I know RDA will. RDA is one of the top, along with other NBRs in our community who do a lot for the community and is very community driven. So I thank you for this, and I'm excited to see this. I hope you can get the grant. This is just another amenity for not even just for Rosedale, but for anyone around the community, Argentine and, up north in Armourdale. This is not just Rosedale's community center. It's going to be open to anybody and everybody that wants to participate. And I know Rosedalians are going to accept that and be welcoming. I had actually meeting, I met a week or two ago with Rodney Lucas, our new executive assistant to the county administrator. And we had that conversation because he lives in Rosedale about how just open and welcoming and warming Rosedale residents are. They may not know you're walking down the hall or walking down the street, and they will stop and say hi and talk to you. So this is only going to help further that, help build that community, strengthen the sense of community. So thank you for coming for us. I'm very excited, and I hope and pray that you get the grant so that something like this can move forward.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Davis online, please.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Just want to say congratulations, RDA. This is a very, very exciting project. And I am in support of this. I do have a question and I'm sure you all have gotten this, just on what your thoughts are on revenue to maintain, revenue for repair. I know there was some conversation, I think, in the slideshow, or maybe it was in your master plan, on Rosedalians and their willingness to pay a fee. But I'm just interested on what those conversations have been after the structure has been built.
Thanks for that. Those conversations are ongoing. We have some pretty good, so one of our potential partners for operating the fitness center component of this asked us to complete a market study to find out exactly what revenue we could expect. That study's complete. I don't personally know what it means yet, but they will tell us, and we'll know whether that's sufficient to support the fitness center. We also expect to receive some revenue from event rental space. This is one of the biggest requests we get at RDA. Can we rent out your community room for whatever? But mostly it will be supported with fundraising, same as RDA is. The operational cost of it, we estimate to be less than RDA's current annual budget. So we think it's within range. I should also mention there are two other partners involved in this. Campfire Heartland will run youth programming out of the community center. We're partnered up this summer for them to operate a large summer program in Rosedale, and it's gone great, and they're going to continue. And then Metro Energy Center is on board to help us with that climate resiliency hub aspect. They will help us with selecting contractors with good green building experience. And then they will use the center as a demonstration site for green building technology. They have a residential home they use that way. This will be their first public building. And then your emergency management department will also have open access to this for education purposes and emergency management purposes. So a lot of partners coming together to operate it as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis, anything else from you, Commissioner Davis?
Nope, that was great. Thank you, Ms. Strikers.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Kane.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I didn't say anything about senior citizens, and some of us might want to use those facilities, correct?
I think Aaron has a strong eye toward our older adult population based on my years of partnering with RDA on older adult issues. So maybe just something tailored just for Commissioner Kane and myself.
You got it.
Any other questions, comments? Is there anyone online that would like to speak to the item?
There are no hand raised.
Any comments received from the public?
There are no comments received.
And is there anyone here in person tonight that would like to speak to the item in the audience? And Commissioner Hill, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say congratulations. This is exciting to me. I'm looking forward to it coming into fruition. So we look forward to that grant coming through. Thank you.
Thank you. We are super hopeful for you for your grant. And if that were to not come about, I imagine you would look in other places. Okay. Congratulations to you and your board for your perseverance, determination, hard work, and your commitment to your master plan. That is so cool. I really appreciate that. If there isn't anything else, I would take a motion.
Or question for legal, is it two separate votes? Or is
No, it's just the only action item you have is for the resolution.
Move to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Congratulations to you. We can't wait to go to a ribbon cutting. Anything else that needs to come before this body tonight? We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Hill,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.